How much of the NBA All-Star Weekend did you watch?
Not counting highlights after the fact.
Right.
0.
Same.
I counted some Sunday highlight watching, but that's it.
So,
0.
Totally with you. The dunk contest used to be my jam. Pardon the pun. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it's
you have
done.
Vince Carter
it's
guy,
over.
a Dominique Wilkins guy. Which era
all
do
of
you
it,
go back
like
to?
Vince Carter, but also let's just anybody from that era. Like there was putting on a show because there was a mystique to it, right? You haven't seen things before. Now we've seen it and done it, and so now it's about the skills competition and 3-point contest. It's all good. But it's also just the NBA. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're sitting here watching to see what the NBA is doing so we can
By the way,
crush
not
them.
even the NBA. The dude who won the dunk contest, Mac McClung, is a G League star.
And he back to back now.
Yeah, he's not even on an NBA roster. He plays the Osceola Magic. That's the jersey he was repping.
And he won last year too.
Well, he was good.
Right?
I'm taking another way from him. He was terrific in the dunk contest, but he's not even in the NBA.
But Chad, there, I guess that's the point altogether. And then the winning team last night had 200 plus points or something. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's stupid.
But the NBA, I won't talk trash about them and then turn around and actually watch their product, because this is why I don't watch their product, because there's all this grandstanding and trying to one up what should or should not be even a part of the conversation, where you have a cool moment where you have a real star in Steph Curry, but also Sabrina. And you have the Steph and Sabrina moment that goes viral, Chad, because of, the conversation after the competition, which was great. I mean, you can watch it in about 2 minutes. Great. But Kenny Smith makes an astute point, points out something that I'm sure the league didn't even want anybody to know. And then Reggie Miller, he has to jump in and take up for the league stance and the political correctness of what the NBA is all about.
I think she should have shot from the women's line. She should have shot from the women's line. That would have been a fair contest. I still root for Sabrina. We all are rooting for Sabrina. No. This is not she should have shot from the 3-point line that the women shoot from.
Why are you putting those boundaries on her?
That's not a boundary. That's what the game is.
She wanted to shoot.
They have a smaller ball, don't they?
She shot a WNBA ball.
WNBA ball is smaller.
She shot with the WNBA
ball.
She
should have shot from the line. There's a women's tee in golf and there's a men's tee for a reason.
No. She a shooter shoot. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, but they shoot from where they shoot from. Thank you.
No.
Sabrina,
good job, Sabrina. No, but don't let any man put boundaries on you like Kenny.
Well, then give him a regular ball then.
Don't let any man put boundaries on you.
Give him a regular ball then. It's not fair.
Curry
I disagree.
made 8 of the 9 money balls to beat Sabrina.
So there's Reggie Miller doing the PR job for the NBA, virtue signaling. And Chad, isn't it obvious that the way it was presented, there's a great piece right now at OutKick.com where you can jump on and read.
Dan Z wrote a nice piece about it.
Yeah, he makes a great point.
Yep.
The NBA set this up as everything was fair and square, meaning they wanted you to think that she was using the same basketball, and had they actually had her shoot from the women's line, you would have been able to see the difference between the NBA line and the WNBA line. But the fact that Kenny Smith points this out, and it's a good point, Reggie Miller has to jump in and play PR.
Well, Reggie Miller, who I really like.
Yeah, me too.
Virtue signaling at its worst in this deal. And at first I'm thinking it was so over the top, like maybe he's just gigging Kenny Smith a little bit, trying to make him look bad, but also kind of joking about, why you got to hold her back? Why you got to do that? But I think he was legitimately serious about this. So that is virtue signaling at its worst. Kenny Smith's best comeback was in the end when he said, all right, then use a men's ball. If you're going to do that, you want to shoot from the men's line? Well, then she should have to use a men's ball, too, if you want to make it all equal. But it's not. Kenny Smith is right. She should have been allowed or should have shot from the WNBA 3-point line because that's where she plays. My mother, Debbie Withrow, was born in 1950. In my mother's life, now I talked to her this morning about this, so she's totally fine with me discussing all of this. In my mother's lifetime, we've come a long way, and it's not always good. Here's where the good happened. When my mom was in high school, she was forced to play 3-on-3 half court. I actually think they put a girl at mid-court, and they would throw it to her, and then she'd throw it to the offensive end or the defensive end. It's kind of a weird spot to be in. You just catch a pass and
like
throw it to
all-time
the other
quarterback
end.
or something?
Sort of. But it's like all-time half-court point guard. But then you had 3-on-3 on each side, defense, offense. My mom was a forward. She played offense half-court, 3-on-3. They did that because no one thought a woman had the physical stamina to run full court and play full-court basketball. That's a lie. That's not true. We've seen that over generations now. Women have the stamina to play full-court basketball, and they could do it at a very high level. And we've seen the game evolve in great directions because people allowed women to run full court and play full court basketball. Now, think about that. That was 1968. My mother, Debbie Withrow, graduated high school. They were forced to play 3-on-3. She had a cousin 7 years younger. So I know that in 1975, in the state of Tennessee at least, they were still being forced to play 3-on-3 half-court basketball in the girls' game in high school. Now, fast forward all these years later. We've made so many advancements, so many developments. Women have so many more opportunities in sport, and I think that's a great thing. So many opportunities. But now we've gone to the extreme other end of this. We somehow, in my mom's lifetime, went from women don't have the physical capabilities or stamina to play full court basketball to Reggie Miller, NBA Hall of Famer, basketball Hall of Famer, claiming there is no difference between men and women in sport. There is absolutely a difference. It's why they play with a smaller ball. It's why the three-point line in many circumstances is closer. It's why we shouldn't be allowing men to compete with women. Not every dream is attainable. I'm sorry. Sabrina Ionescu is never going to be a star in the NBA, no matter how big she dreams, no matter how much she shoots with the men's basketball, any of that. Kenny Smith is right. It was a great competition where it was. She might have won the damn thing had they allowed her or had she shot from the actual WNBA three-point line instead of the men's line. The games are different. Men and women are different physically. I don't know why we have such a hard time admitting this. Just like it's impossible, I believe, right now for Sabrina Ionescu to dream that she's going to be an NBA star instead of a WNBA star.
She seems to identify as a man.
It should also be impossible for a man, a young boy, a young man to dream that they can be a women's sports star and then go and do it in swimming or go and do it in volleyball. That also should be an impossible dream. Certain dreams being impossible is fine. That's called reality. Let's get back to reality. We weren't necessarily living in reality in 1968 when my mother, Debbie Withrow, graduated high school. We're not living in reality in 2024 when Reggie Miller and Leah Thomas and whoever the dudes are that are playing girls volleyball all over the country are allowed to do these things and act like men and women are the same. They're not. They are physically different for a reason, and there's a reason we divide them up in sports. It's fine. Not every dream has to be attainable.
Chad, the other part of this, and well said, is what Reggie Miller is saying to Kenny Smith about the responses, in essence, talking to Sabrina while on air, recapping this, saying, don't let Kenny put boundaries on you.
Don't let him define your boundaries.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so why does the WNBA use a different basketball and a different three-point line? Reggie? Isn't that a boundary? That's the whole point of this. And I don't think and by the way, Kenny Smith wasn't taking a shot at
No.
He's not sexist. He's just making a point that everyone failed to mention, because if you're just watching the competition, you just think it's the same basketball.
Also,
They want that perception.
it's not.
But here's the other part. Then you have everyone else responding on social media, like Sue Bird, who chimes in saying that she, it's unfortunate that there wasn't a female commentator to give perspective and actually, as if Reggie Miller didn't do enough virtue signaling on behalf of anyone watching that would have wanted to respond to this. And then, sidestep that with LeBron's presser, where LeBron James is asked about, if he's ever going to have a farewell tour. And he says, similar to what Kobe had or Kareem, And he says, you know what, I'm 50-50 because, man, I've never been that great with accepting praise. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's why you hold a book on a presser that's on page 2 the entire time. You want that acceptance. You love. And I guess it gets to a point, Chad, where you praise so much that you don't realize you're being praised. And so you go back to something that isn't true.
Yeah.
That, oh, no one praises me, but I don't really want it anyway. Yes, you do.
Well, let's table this LeBron ridiculousness, which
but
you bring up a great point.
But this is the NBA. Everything that makes a headline is off the court.
Let's step away from the NBA is ridiculous in a lot of ways, but basketball commentary. All right, Sue Bird wants more female commentators calling, I guess, men's basketball games or basketball.
In that discussion, she wanted perspective.
I am all for what Sue Bird is saying. But what I want is intellectual honesty. Because unless a woman that has played the game is going to stand there and say, what Kenny Smith is saying is correct, it's a different size ball, and it is different when you are accustomed to shooting at one line and towing that line and getting up close to it, and that's your repetition. Hey, I think she wins the competition if they do that, right? She's a great shooter. No one, and Kenny Smith is not taking away from Sabrina Ionescu's shooting. She almost won, you're right, from that line. Now, with a women's ball. She's not shooting with a men's ball, nor should she, because that's not the ball she shoots with throughout her career. She shoots with a women's ball. If there's a woman, Sue Bird, if she wants to sit there and say, what Kenny's saying is correct, right? It's different, and if they played it that way, maybe the outcome is different because it was so close this way, I'm willing to hear that. But if you're just talking about someone that's a woman going on TV and saying things that you think people want to believe or want to hear and not what is reality, I'm not interested in that. Because Reggie Miller knows Reggie Miller's sister is maybe the greatest women's basketball player of all time, Cheryl Miller. Terrific player in her day. He knows the difference, though. He knows the difference. And Cheryl was someone who could play with guys at times in her career and probably held her own. But Cheryl Miller, greatest women's player of all time, is not an NBA player, much less in the discussion for greatest basketball player of all time. Why? There's a physical difference between men and women. And it is okay to state that. And by saying that, you're not saying something sexist. There are certain dreams that are unattainable. Again, I'll go back to the reference about men competing in women's sports. If your dream as a young boy is to earn a Division I volleyball scholarship to play women's volleyball, that should be an unattainable dream for you. I don't want to hear about your truth, all right? When Davey Hudson says that it's not I'm your Huckleberry in Tombstone, that's his truth. I don't care about his truth. That's not truth. That's not reality. We deal in facts. The facts are men should not compete in women's sports, and men and women are different physically. We could get a doctor on here to explain all the differences for you if you don't understand the difference already. I
don't know if we could.
There's a reason
there are 3 genders, Chad.
That's true.
Not 2.
There's a reason that women play with a different ball, and the three-point line is closer to the basket. Just like Kenny Smith said, there's a reason there's ladies' tees and there's men's tees. It's not universal. I'm not a good golfer. There are women who can outdrive me, plenty of them. I suck at golf. But when you're talking about the best of sport, there's a difference physically with them.
Well, Did
you like how I worked in the Huckleberry reference in that?
No doubt. The competition, by the way, just watching it in the clip was great. I mean, she goes first and she's ripping those threes. She's great in the moment. Caitlin Clark can absolutely shoot from the NBA line. But I do the presentation of this was everything's on the up and up and everything's even. And that was from the NBA perspective. I think this was also leaning into that view of, look at the men and women competing. You got the 2 stars. That's great.
Look, they found the competition.
It doesn't have to be sexist to mention the size of a women's basketball, because if it is, the WNBA is that.
Well,
if they're worried about putting boundaries on her.
Yes. No, spot on. And here's the other thing, too. This competition was terrific. I love stuff like this. And they found the competition where the best woman can absolutely beat the best man. We almost saw it with her beating Steph Curry at it, right? Shooting a three-pointer and skills of the game. This is an area where women for years and years have excelled in the game. It's why I like women's basketball at its purest level when you watch the game. I will stand by this, and I believe it to be true. I think women's basketball aesthetically became a worse product when more women tried to emulate the men they watched and not play women's basketball. I think they're trying to play a style of game that doesn't fit them in a lot of circumstances. Now, someone like Caitlin Clark is an exception, right? She can pull up and shoot leaning to her left jump shots from 40 feet and drain them left and right. So she's an exception. Do I want to see Caitlin Clark go head-to-head with Steph Curry one day in a three-point shootout? Absolutely. Do I think Steph Curry versus Caitlin Clark in a game of one-on-one would be fun to watch? No. Because if Steph Curry wanted to beat her badly, he would. He would win easily. But when you find the competition that you could make it almost even like this,
right?
I'm all for it because it does show how skilled women are in basketball. And it's fun to watch those types of things.
Well, and if Steph schooled her on the one-on-one, he would be ripped apart on social. That's why this continues in a cycle. Like Reggie Miller's being praised right after all this. I mean, as the grandstanding hero.
Well, I don't know. I don't understand why
the sexist Kenny Smith, which is just stupid.
You know, I know Serena Williams has said it before. Asked a question about. She said something like, "One of the lowest-ranked men would beat me." It's a different game, right? Men's and women's tennis.
Yeah.
That she said something along those lines. Professional tennis player. I would love to hear just a female commentator just admit the obvious and say that. Like if they said what Kenny Smith said, I would like to hear from the women's basketball expert.
Well, that would be Candace Parker because she's on Inside the NBA.
But now, yeah, she's more of an NBA expert, right?
Well, I'm just saying from.
But Candace
I'm
Parker
going back to
could
what Sue
come to the
Bird was saying.
defense of. Yeah, Candace Parker could come to the defense of Kenny Smith here.
Or the all likelihood is everyone would just,
But what she'll probably do is pile on, even if she doesn't believe it, because she knows that'll get the best response on social media.
Sure.
By doing that.
Yeah. Hit us up with your thoughts. You can join us on social media there. And also, glad you're watching at outkick.com/watch. We've got Shannon Terry from On3 coming in. Can't wait to chat with them about where we're headed and the perception that, the players, it's not those at the very top, it's the players of college athletics. In this case, I'm going to go to college football, ruining the sport that we love. Chad, there were 27 head coaches hired in either the NFL or Division I in 2018. 2018, we're going 6 years here. 6 years later, there's only one head coach left standing of the 27 combined coaches hired by that specific team in 2018 in the NFL or Division I. And from that entire group, it's Rice head coach Mike Bloomgren, who doesn't boast, by the way, some outstanding record. In fact, he's not deserving of being the designated survivor. He's 24 games below 500 at Rice. He's the last man standing. It's nuts. The coaching carousel, though, never ends. And, there are guys that deserve to hit the door. I'm not one that sits here and says, no, don't fire anyone. But far too often, those that are calling the shots they're just not crushed for being inept or failure to identify a person suitable for the job and the money. And in many cases, they're just going to a search firm. So here we are in 2024. And the hype and the hope that this coaching cycle possesses, it remains much the same of 2018. Everyone is poised for huge success if you look around and read any article, listen to a local show, see a league that's reacting even on their own website about hires and ranking. The business is huge success. Everyone's poised for that. But ultimately, they're paid to fail. The business side of football is selling hope over and over and over again. Big money football at the highest level is mismanaged, and that starts at the very top all the way down. In the pros, yes, and certainly in college. And to me, it's odd how we as a collective media, that we just love every hire collectively, and then demand they be fired 12 to 36 months later. When an NFL coach is hired, the reaction is heralded and praised in a consistent manner. Everything is positive to a weird and annoying amount. Just, I went back and Googled the reaction to the 2018 coaching hires, Chad.
Can't wait to hear these.
John Gruden. This from NFL.com. Gruden is worth the $100 million to the Raiders on and off the field. He's absolutely crucial for this franchise at this moment. Mike Vrabel. A quote was, I like the Mike Vrabel appointment here. I just like the other hires more. Matt Patricia. How about this from Shefty? Adam Schefter via Will Brinson in 2018.
Via also his agent, probably, Patricia's, if it's Schefter.
Adam
posting.
Schefter says, Matt Patricia has, quote, gotten calls from just about every team that has an opening right now. And that last year, when he was interviewing with teams, they said he was smart enough to be a general manager. He looks destined to leave New England at this point in time. That part was true. Nothing else is. Matt Nagy. Nagy fits the bill brilliantly. Alex Smith just enjoyed a career year under Nagy's watchful eye. With Nagy in Chicago, expect Mitchell Trubisky to make a sizable leap in year 2. Steve Wilks. This 48-year-old defense-centric coach is he's all about winning and attention to detail. His passion for the game is infectious. He's a perfect fit for the Cardinals right now. And then Frank Reich. This was, by the way, with the Colts, initially Josh McDaniels, who took this job for about, 2 weeks? NFL.com writes, when it comes to character and organizational collaboration, the Colts did better on the final hire than they did with the first hire. Pat Shurmur was also part of this. And, of course, none of these guys remained employed by the team that hired them in 2018. That's in 6 years, all fired. But college football says, hold my beer, but don't look here. Because the players are profiting from collectives. That's why we're crying now. We're crying poor. It's not because the millions handed to coaches who fail. And in a strange way, there is a sense, Chad, of accomplishment that a school or a team owner who they have millions, just pour millions, to hand over to your terrible coach or administrator to clean house, to just do it all over again. I think as a collective fan base of football, there's too much of pat on the back, thank goodness we got rid of this dude. Get him out of here. Pay him to leave. Back to that coaching class of 2018. Chad, of the 21 coaches hired in college that year, 13 were fired or forced out. Dan Mullen is among them. 7 others like Chip Kelly, Mario Cristobal, Josh Heupel, Sonny Dykes. They landed other jobs and then, loaded up and bolted. Some are doing well, some aren't. But the 13 fired featured Scott Frost at Nebraska, Jimbo Fisher, Mullen at Florida. They also had Pruitt, Willie Taggart, Chad Morris, Kevin Sumlin, Herm Edwards. And the wasted money and the stupid contracts are not close to stopping because in the last 12 months, there have been 31 coaching changes in college football. Buyouts go up, and so do the coaching searches. And in the NFL, guess what else goes up? Your ticket prices, your streaming service bills, your favorite programs and teams, they blow money left and right. But it also shows the type of profits they're raking in. Buyouts have skyrocketed in just the last few years. Brian Kelly, Chad, his buyout is $70 million. He's going to receive 90% of anything remaining on his contract when he's fired. Now, keep in mind, Ed Orgeron was also paid to leave. Brian Kelly's buyout is $70 million. Ed O's buyout was $16 million. James Franklin's buyout at Penn State, $64 million. And he would only owe Penn State $6 million if he bolted for the NFL. $6 million compared to $64. Dabo's buyout, $64 million. If a team wanted to hire him, they'd pay $5 million to buy out the contract at Clemson. Matt Rule at Nebraska, $62 million. His contract does not even expire until 2031. That's a long time. Dude's going to make his $62 million. And they've got to pay 90% of his contract when he's fired. Mark Stoops at Kentucky has a $50 million buyout at Kentucky. 75% of his remaining salary will be paid whenever he's fired. And, by the way, he replaced Joker Phillips. He had a $3 million buyout. at Kentucky, a $3 million out to now $50 million. And Ryan Day, this speaks to everything. He has a $46 million buyout if Ohio State fires him. $46 million, not to win, but to lose to Michigan. So, I mean, where are we with all this? It's mismanagement at the highest level, and those doing these contracts are the ones ruining the system. It's not the players. And in the NFL, it's now combine season. Every head coach and general manager, they're all going to be in the best mood they're going to be in all year long because the organization that they're coaching for or working for, they're all selling hope. So let's at least call out those who are allowing coaches to be paid to fail. Failures in their own right. They need to be called out for this. And I think it's like literally everyone at the top of the sport right now. It's hard to name everybody. NFL ownership, ADs, presidents, chancellors, and your school's big booster. And you may say, oh, Hutton, who cares if they waste money? It's not your money. Ultimately, it can be, though, because instead of boosters, the NFL owners, they have all of us. Taxpayers building stadiums, funding projects left and right. So I think if we want to slow down this massive buyout issue, we need to acknowledge that we're not helping the effort if all we do is praise the next hire, because he's also going to be paid to fail. And this thing just continues to roll, and it's not like the buyouts are going to go down. The agent just replaces the guy who was fired with another client, and the cycle continues. And the NCAA, and really conference commissioners and everyone else, they want you to believe that the whatever percentage of the money that's rolling in from boosters or sponsors or whatever that's now going to the player, that's what's going to cripple the game. It's just not true.
It's a misdirect, right? It's a complete redirect of where everyone's eyes should be on the failings of. I'm going to stay with college for a second here with this issue of buyouts, right? Now, in college, it's all under the guise of the cost of doing business. Well, that's just the cost of doing business. If you want Matt Rule at Nebraska, you got to give him however many millions of dollars, $60 million, I think it was,
yes.
$60 million buyout, because that's what his agent demands, or he'll sit out a year and do TV and try to get back in the NFL or do something else, right? So fans just dismiss it as, well, that's the cost of doing business too often. The only way to truly stop it would be some form of collusion, right, which may be illegal, for everyone to get together and say, we're not going to do it. Every major school just says, I know we're competing against each other, but let's not do it anymore. If you want to pay someone more in their annual salary because they are succeeding, great. Give them that bonus, give them that extension because they've done a good job. But upping the buyout or giving them an astronomical buyout just to hire them to come to your place, we have to stop with that because it's really, really bad business. Now, in college sports, at least there's a deterrent for the AD to make stupid decisions. In that, now, a lot of cases, the AD does have a high buyout, but in many, they don't have a buyout that the coaches have, so they can get fired. You make one or two bad hires as a college AD at a big-time place, you can get fired quickly. You can't fire an NFL owner. So there's really nothing stopping NFL owners from making bad decisions.
Well,
and bad buyout and bad business for whatever city they're in business with.
Well, let's mention
at
something.
Times.
From the NFL owner's perspective, we have a stadium that's now, they're breaking ground right now in the new stadium.
Yep.
$700 million of a $2.1 billion structure is being financed through the team itself, really the league. The rest of it is us, collectively. If you come to Nashville and you stay in a hotel, there's a hotel tax that's going to help all this. Like, it's just, but you also have the same owner who's paying right now a ton of money to a general manager and a head coach, former general manager, head coach, that they extended 10 months previous to when they fired those guys. You know, in one case, and then 2 years after. But they didn't have the liquid assets to fund more than just a third of a stadium. So that's where I think things get crossed on what's available, what's not. But also from the AD's perspective, I think also to help stop it, the buyouts have to go up in favor of the team and the program and the university if said coach leaves. Because, I mean, comparing what I mean, Ryan Day, I believe, had he's got a very small buyout. If Texas A&M wanted to hire him legitimately, they don't have to pay that much to go get him. But if he has a high buyout, that doesn't really help the team that wants to go get him. And it keeps the coach there, and it also prevents the opening of happening to where you then have to go do the same thing again.
At minimum, they should have it on both sides. If you're going to have an astronomical buyout, if you fire the coach, there should be a mirror image of that astronomical buyout if that coach wants to leave us for another job.
Right. But
Ryan
Day's buyout, if he's fired,
that's only
$46 million. His buyout, if a team wants to hire him away, is $4.5 million. There's a massive gap there. And it's not just Ohio State. But, I mean, again, he loses to Michigan one more time. He's going to make $46 million.
It's so sad to see the state of all of college sports right now, because if you are the program that decides to do the right thing, which is not promise these awful, huge buyouts to people who fail, then you get cast in the agent community and the coaching community as, well, they're not playing ball like everybody else, so they're not going to get the better coaches. They're going to have to go hire some young guys that, just want that job for whatever reason, and they're not going to get the best coaching candidates out there because they're not spending that money in buyouts. But the buyout business is terrible business for the athletic departments and for NFL teams. So
totally with you.
It takes someone breaking the mold and succeeding at some huge level in doing that, and then maybe others start to follow. But I don't know how that's going to happen because you're going to have to get rich and hit it right with the right coach that doesn't care about the buyout.
But you can care about the buyout, but what they have to get right is the hire. So, to go hire some up-and-comer that's going to hit it big, they're not hitting it big with the guys who are actually paid paid at this amount. And by and large, it's a search firm that they're paying. That's the other part of it.
Yeah.
They put the blame on the search firm, and by and large, they're 2018, one coach remains, and the dude is 22 games below 500 at Rice.
And again, I hate it in college, but at least in college, the school president can fire the athletic director for making terrible hires and committing way too much money in buyouts to bad coaches that they eventually have to pay to walk away because those coaches failed.
But those buyouts are approved by a board.
Right, but the NFL, there's no deterrent because the NFL owner is going to continue to make money. The city they're in is going to continue to bend over backwards to meet their every need,
right?
Or they're going to threaten to leave or get a better situation somewhere else in another city, and they can continue to make bad hires, and it doesn't matter. There's got to be, in situations where stadiums or teams are at least in part civically funded, which is pretty much all of them, there needs to be a lot more transparency about that, right? If you're going to have your legal counsel go into a contract with a GM or a coach that has some really high buyout, I think the people of that city need to know about it. I think they need to be in the loop on the hiring process. I'm not saying that the transit leader for the city of Nashville should have a say in who they hire as general manager for Amy Adams Strunk and the Titans, but some transparency about what the city should know and what fans should know about, I think is totally fine when you're asking that city to also fund your stadium.
But I'm looking at it from the NBA, the NFL perspective of the owner can do whatever he or she wants. Totally fine with that. But you better believe that ticket prices are going to go up. The suite holders who were currently at the 45-yard line are now going to have to buy a suite if they want to pay the same price in the second-level end zone suite area.
Yeah.
That's where the prices are going to continue to rise. The streaming services will continue to rise because they're also paying billions to the league. And yet there's this far too often, I think, in football, you're eating your own. Far too often. And, I mean, maybe it just traces back to quarterback, but in several cases, coaches are gone before they even have a chance to develop. And now in college, it's just a different beast.
Well,
because the ticket prices are also going up there, too.
What really bothers me is that we've lost real stakes for coaches and NFL teams, sticking with Hutton's whole presentation about NFL teams and colleges and making bad decisions, right? I'm going to stick with that theme. No other sports. What are the real stakes for Jerry Stackhouse, who we're going to talk about here later? If he's got a big buyout right now, He's going to get paid millions. He's already getting paid millions. He's going to get paid millions of dollars to walk away and fail. Like, well, what is failure in that regard?
He's almost being punished of staying.
Oh, you got fired from a school. Okay, yeah, the pride, the ego takes a hit. But I miss the days of the movie Major League, where the Cleveland Indians were so bad for so long that the owner tried to tank the team for an attendance deal so that she could move the team to Miami, but that there were real stakes in that they were going to have to sell or they couldn't make enough money to make payroll or to make whatever. There are no real stakes in the NFL. These owners can make terrible hires left and right, and all they're going to do is lose football games. And you know who pays the price for that? The fan. Jack and Jill fan that sit up in the end zone or sit in the upper deck that have to sit through miserable seasons that actually care about the team. Those owners are going to continue to be rich because of the television contract, because of everything else, the CBA, all of that. They're going to continue to get rich no matter what. There aren't real stakes anymore. Well, I miss the days of we got to win the division this year, or I might have to sell this team. Or I'm going to have to get out of this.
And playing off the stakes, the stakes now in college in football, college athletics, is they want to pull the blind over this issue, the buyout issue, to then point to, man, we can't have employees playing because we're going to lose so much money. And really, the stakes are, for them, they're going to lose money that really they're making currently, that they're spending a vast majority of their athletic budget on guys who aren't even there. And they're still making a ton of money. But they want to blame it on the income that the player would be making through a collective and forcing and trying to make the villain something that it's not, because it's at least in the NFL they have the CBA set up.
Right. And college is not always this way because there are, I think, some real life stakes when you make terrible decision after terrible decision. We've seen major athletic departments and major conferences take a hit financially and have a lot of issues. Yeah. So it does happen, but and I know I keep referencing a movie that is fictional, but I think there's some real life things. Lou Brown had to go back to selling tires if he got fired as manager of the Cleveland Indians. And he wasn't going to be rich if that happened, right? Guys that need to make it work, or else they're going to have to go get another profession. They're not going to have a lot of money. I just look at it and I think it works me. It gets me worked up because I'm a huge sports fan. And guys that suck, I want them to feel shame about sucking. But they don't feel shame because they're going to collect the check they get in the buyout.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're going to be fine. They're going to go live in their beach house for the next year or two. Then they're going to get some coordinator position or position coach position where, guess what? They're going to make over $1 million to do that also whenever they're good and ready to do that. So I really sit back and think professionally, what are the real stakes involved? There's not a lot.
And you mentioned
when you get to NFL and major college football, there's just not enough big-time stakes.
A great example of what you're saying, like the stakes of UCLA, who is struggling financially, right, within their athletic department. They're about to get $100 million a year.
Yeah,
for joining the Big Ten. That's the reward.
Well, and going back to NIL and why I am increasingly more and more okay with players getting even more and more of a share of that pie. The real stakes is the guy that, right now is a third-round NFL draft pick.
Sure.
That could work his way up to a first-round pick that's out there playing his ass off, that could get hurt and then not get drafted, and that completely changes the course of his professional life to where he's doing something totally different because he went undrafted where he could have been a second-round pick had he not come back and played for that school. Or he wasn't given the right opportunity in the right system to go star and be a high draft pick. Those players are really taking on the real stakes. Now, when they make their second contract in the NFL, we could say the same for them. NBA, certainly the case. Major League Baseball, guaranteed contracts. There are no real stakes for those guys not to perform when they get paid to that level, and it's all guaranteed. But those football players playing major college football, they're stakes. There are big-time financial implications and major stakes in front of them for not playing well, not working hard, not succeeding. I would like to see that flipped, and those same stakes to take place for athletic directors, school presidents, and NFL owners. And I don't think there are any. And coaches that get the huge buyouts.
Chad, stakes. The stakes of the next thing on our list here, which is Rick Petino. Do you want to do it when we come back? Or the stakes would be if we do that, it's not going to be on YouTube. Your thoughts? Because no one's going to clip it after this.
Let's.
You just want to stay on air?
Let's do it. Let's fit it in.
So,
Hutton, I love our YouTube audience so much. I believe in real stakes, right?
Right.
So the fact if you're watching the show on YouTube and you're about to miss this dynamic discussion
You're also
about
going to miss
Rick
the rest
Pitino
of the show when we go to break.
completely melting down. I want our YouTube audience to take in this discussion. So we're not leaving.
So
to quote Leo in Wolf of Wall Street, which, by the way, Tyrus on right now, OutKick Network. You can watch the real-life Leo from Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, on that show.
Right.
We will give you the Petino discussion.
So he goes scorched earth on his team. 14-12, I believe, is the record for St. John's. And after the most recent loss, here's Rick Pitino discussing, how much he's enjoying coaching this team currently.
We are so non-athletic that we can't guard anybody without fouling. It's been that way the year, but we came out in the second half and we knew they would come after us, but you have to move the ball, and we just took 4 minutes of rush shots. I think they're unathletic. I don't think they move well laterally. I don't think they're going to pick it up in the next week. I think they're slow laterally. I mean, Sean Conway gives you everything he can. He's slow laterally. About 5 guys are slow laterally. Even the Celtics, when we lost, I've enjoyed every minute being a Boston Celtic coach. Didn't like the fact that we lost in that following year, but this has been the most unenjoyable experience I've had since
I mean, he even starts mentioning, like, it's not like we didn't try to bring in better players. He's like, yeah, we recruited this team. He mentioned A.J. Starr as someone that he tried to get, but there was some academic issues and other things.
Is that no longer an NCAA violation, by the way? I didn't think you could, like, talk
about
other
I tried
players
to get
by
A.J.
name.
Starr. I tried to get others. There were circumstances that had to be done over that were out of my control.
Remember, you couldn't, like, name a guy's name that you tried to recruit, right? The coach couldn't talk about him if they were somewhere else. I guess we're looking over that one now.
Yeah.
Rick Pitino also, when asked about a moral victory in a 1-point loss in Omaha to Creighton, said, and I quote, "I want to jump into the cold and die of frostbite," after that 1-point loss. I'm here for it.
I love this.
I'm here for this, Rick Pitino. I find it hilarious. Now, if I'm a player on this team, I probably don't find it quite as funny.
No, I mean,
but I'm sure that he's just sharing their physical limitations that he has hammered home with them every day in practice and during every game. So it's nothing new to them.
But this is the next level, though, because while you're doing that in practice, he's not just speaking in terms of my locker room is slow. We have to get faster. He's naming names. He's going straight at individual players, naming them by name, and then saying he's not fast on the court, or Ledlam's slow laterally, Conway's slow laterally, Brady's physically weak. Calls a dude on one of his players playing for him physically weak. I mean, it's just.
I mean, when you're 71
and
reach the point, and also, he said this is the least enjoyable experience of his life.
Yeah.
I mean, think about what Rick Pitino's been through.
Well, he's enjoyed a lot.
Professionally and personally over the course of his career. Just go back to Louisville if you want to do a quick Google search. And this now.
He's enjoyed a lot.
Watching these slow losers try to move laterally is the least enjoyable experience of his life. And he's had some other things that have happened over the course of his career that I would say probably less enjoyable than watching this Johnny's basketball team trying to cut the guy off the baseline, but they're too slow laterally to move their damn feet to get in position. But this is the least enjoyable experience of Rick Pitino's life. This is funny to me.
They play Georgetown coming up Wednesday.
It's also great because he's not out of the NCAA tournament discussion. Like, they're on the outside of the bubble now, but they could easily work their way back in with the schedule they have left in a Big East tournament.
Yeah.
So doing this now, this is not like an end, like post-mortem, season's over, we're not playing an NCAA tournament, I'm now going to crush this team and explain to everyone what I'm going to go get in the transfer portal. This is 5 regular season games left, and then March. And he's saying, you guys suck. You're not fast enough. There's nothing I can do to make this dude physically strong enough to play the way I want him to play.
I was gonna say, we'll get to this later in the show, that it would be amazing NIT matchup, St. John's and Memphis. But this is a roster that Rick Pitino will not take to the NIT. Let's decline the invitation.
Yep. He's going to be too busy hitting the portal to play in the NIT.
Oh, try to get a new facility.
Guys, I'm going to pass on that game against Furman because I got to go get this guard from USC that's transferring out.